this week is a different week than usual, not just time-wise, but in the time span, the career the trajectory of our podcast, where this will be our first video podcast. And, much like the most notable Nelson segment to the podcast that we had to cancel due to COVID-19 concerns, we couldn't use our normal high-budget podcast studio, so we made a podcast studio here in beautiful Twin Peaks Island in Animal Crossing New Horizons. So this is a new thing we're doing, but we're recording the podcast. We're gonna say we're gonna be slinging hot takes. We're gonna be creating content. It's gonna be a wild ride, just like you're used to. I think it's just gonna be wonderful. Matthew?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, something to remember here is that we're a podcast that likes to have fun. And when people have fun, great things happen. So we're really looking forward to fun. We're looking forward to good times and good vibes. And, what
we
goes
like to
along
have fun
with that.
around here, basically, yeah, we just like to have fun.
Yeah, we're just a group of cool... we're just a group of cool, buds, and cool buds like to, have cool fun together. And that's what we're doing. So, theme song. All right, you cool cats and kittens. This is the Motion Pixels Podcast. I'm your co-host, August Meyer. August, say hello. Oh, you'll see me kind of, getting in and out of my couch here. That's my Jerry Garcia looking guy, if you're tuning into the video. Matthew, say hello.
Hello.
And joining us this week, a lot of surveys, the census just happened. I don't know if he, on the census, identified as the baddest boy of comedy, but, here at the Motion Pixels Podcast Studio, we like to think of him as the baddest boy of comedy. Joining us is Dane Kevin Cook, Uncle Dane. Dane, say hello.
That's me.
And this is the Motion Pixels Podcast. So, you cool cats and kittens, what's cracking in your neck of the woods? What's new? What's keeping you up at night?
You're the one on the couch, so we're supposed to be the shrinks, not you.
Yeah, this is really, I've frequently mentioned, if you go back and listen to our past podcast, I frequently mentioned that I treat this podcast as therapy. And, this is really just a way for me to, kind of let it all out, air my grievances. I complain a lot. Matt, I know, edits out most of what I say, so you guys might not hear all of it, but, that's just how I approach the podcast. So, this is really a good outlet for me.
That's good.
I'm glad we have this way for you to just get it all out. A lot of pent up feelings, emotions.
That way you don't commit some sort of act.
Like what kind of act just are you kind of thinking of, Dane?
Oh, just kind of like I'm not gonna. If I say anything, it's gonna get cut out anyway.
Yeah, I love content. So maybe you were thinking of maybe I would, sling some content that, would be, hotter than usual. I love hot content. So we're ready to sling that this week. This week I, have been playing quite a bit of Animal Crossing. I actually spent quite a bit of time setting up this podcast studio in Animal Crossing that we're recording in. And I just showed it to Dane, maybe 30 minutes ago. And when when Dane came to my island in Animal Crossing and I brought him here into my yard where I built this podcast studio, he was like, wait, this is it?
It just slipped out, all right? I didn't mean it in any sort of
And I laughed
way.
for about a minute. It's so funny.
I will admit it came off as unintentionally mean, but I mean it. what I was trying to imply was that I was surprised that it was taking place inside of a flower field of all places. I imagined it not taking place there. So
yeah, Dane's used to his state of the art recording studio with his $1,000 equipment, camera guy on cue. We don't even have somebody manning this camera. It's just there, we're just doing what we can, but
no, we just hit record and the magic happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. The magic just flows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to embody the entrepreneurial spirit that a lot of people, during these trying times are, doing in the real life, in the real world. So I wanted to embody that here at our makeshift podcast studio in, the world of Twin Peaks Island, Animal Crossing. So, we're, doing it in my yard, within my means. We're really bootstrapping ourselves here, as we take a journey onto YouTube. This is a new thing for the podcast. We're posting it in, both audio where you can listen to it with your ears to video where you can listen to it with your eyes.
And what's cool is that after we're done recording this, Matt is actually going to go and he's going to animate frame by frame our mouths moving and lip syncing to everything we're saying on our characters. So, that's actually pretty cool dedication from Matt. So give him a lot of props for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be really helpful. This is one of those times where it's like, I'm glad I cut out about 20% of what everybody else says.
What's cool about my character is you won't have to do a little animation on top of mine.
Yeah, thank you for your stylish and contextually appropriate mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to get the corona from you guys.
No, it's really cool of you to do that because as you can see, if you can't, you're just going to have to let me paint a picture for you. Dane is wearing a plague mask. He's a plague doctor of sorts. And that's because he cares about us. He doesn't want to spread any sort of filth, any sort of virus to us. And we don't want to accept any viruses from his mouth. So, we appreciate him doing that here at Animal Crossing.
I care all about the olds, the fats, the boomers, all of those guys. I care all about all of them. I don't want any of them to perish or die in a horrible pandemic bug. So, I'm just taking every precaution I can.
Yeah, all of us old fat boomers really appreciate the work you're doing, Dane.
If you're a triple threat old fat boomer, then yes, this mask is for you. We say this a lot too, but this is a podcast that cares. And this week, you can see that in full force. So this week we'll be talking about, caring. That's kind of the first and foremost thing. We care about our staff's safety first and foremost here. So we'll be talking a lot about safety protocols. But after we talk about that, we'll be talking about, other things. I know we talked about Valorant. We've been playing Valorant a whole bunch, Matt and I. And Dane, maybe this changed. Maybe he had a change of heart. You can hear it straight from the source, straight from the uncle himself. But sounds like he has absolutely zero interest in it. So I'm going to be interested in what Dane has to say about Valorant because Matt and I have been spending way too much goddamn time playing that game. To marginally get better and better, a little tiny bit every day. Is it worth it? I don't know. But maybe Dane can talk some sense into us, or maybe we'll convert Dane to the dank side here. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Valorant, I think. We probably got some thoughts on Animal Crossing. It's this like life simulator game from Nintendo, kind of a Tanuki-based life simulator where, you have a lot of fun with your buddies. So we'll probably talk about that game too. I think the other guys have played that. I don't know if we have any collective movies that we've watched, but I watched a movie I really liked this week called Hunt for the Wilderpeople, directed by our boy Taika Waititi of Thor Ragnarok fame.
I want to hear you talk about that. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll talk about that too. And, just like the mighty river, roaring behind us in the world of Animal Crossing, this conversation is just going to, go with the flow, So we're just here to have a good time with our buds. And that's what, this podcast is all about, that and safety. So, what do you guys think about safety?
I'm pro safety personally. I'm definitely I voted yes for safety on my ballot. So I don't know.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, thoughts on safety?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I am also pro safety. So moving on. Yeah. So let's get right ahead of this. What do you guys
before everybody stops listening?
What do you guys think about seasonal flowers in Animal Crossing? I was thinking today that that's pretty neat because I planted some holly bushes by my house, and I just have the bush but no flower. And at first I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But then I was like, oh, you know what? That's kind of nice. Like, it's cool that the game simulates actual seasonality for flowers.
Yeah. It kind of gives you a reason to come back and take a look and be like, oh, wow, my holly bushes are blooming. Whoa. And you'll do that voice and everything. So I think, I'm okay with it. I like it. And honestly, I would have been okay with just bushes with different types of leaves. Like, the flowers are just kind of a bonus for me. I'm a big fan of the look of bushes without flowers or with flowers. So, it's all good.
Are the bushes the only, I guess, type of plant that's seasonal in this game?
I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. Because I know the only other thing is the trees that turn into the cherry blossoms, right?
Yeah. Although trees, I guess, although it's not technically seasonal, they do change color in the autumn and the winter. So, and then I think around Christmas time, all of the pine trees get Christmas lights in them.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's happened in all the other games, and I think I saw a screenshot of somebody who time traveled. So it's confirmed.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm stoked for that.
I've been all over, in getting the studio ready. I was all over Nookazon. This is this website that's sprung up that is like a way to connect people. It's like a kind of a marketplace that really just connects you to people in Discord who have specific items. Amazon. It's exactly like Amazon, except the guy who owns it is a lot richer than Jeff Bezos, Tom Nook. But on it, I saw a bunch of Christmas trees, which I have not seen anywhere in my game. So I'm guessing people got those from time traveling. Like, I don't know if this is just something that appears in your shop when you're in the holiday months. Do you know anything about that, Dane?
Oh, I did not know about that. For some reason, I assumed that the pine trees would just have Christmas lights on them automatically. Like, you wouldn't have to buy a separate thing. Oh, I accidentally got out my chair. Whoops.
Yeah, I saw the ones I saw in Nookazon were white. They look kind of like fake trees that you would put up in your house. And one of them that I saw was white and I think had sparkles or mistletoe or something on it. Not mistletoe, garland, something like that on it. I don't remember specifically, but it's going to be interesting to see. I guess a lot of people are time traveling, so we probably already have it's probably already out there if there are seasonal specific items that aren't tied to an event, like the Bunny Day stuff was, or the Cherry Blossom stuff was. But yeah, that was just an interesting thing that I saw in Nookazon that got me thinking about the seasonality in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good thing for you to come back because I know you want to talk a bit about the end game, but I think that's really how the end game in Animal Crossing, that just sounds so funny. But I guess that is kind of just after you get your town essentially built up, the thing that gets you to come back is just all the seasonal stuff. And it is weird that right now we're in the May events and whatnot, but I find it strange that they're just things that you have to wait for, because I feel like this time when I was playing the GameCube one, I hit my point where I was like, all right, I'm just going to jump all over the place and I want to see everything. So I would go to the Halloween event and the Christmas event. And in this game, I haven't been time traveling. Yeah. And you have to wait. Right now, have you guys done the May event? There's that hedge maze thing.
I haven't yet, but I will eventually.
Yeah. I just got my ticket for it, but I haven't done it. The May Day tour, I think it's called. You get a May Day tour ticket from Tom Nook.
Yeah. How long does that go on for? Is it the whole month?
I think it's till the 7th. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to do that soon, I guess.
Yeah, I have not done it, but it's cool that they keep pumping out all these events. Like, the game's only been out for a little more than a month, like a month and a half, and not even. And they've already had 3 events. They had I guess 4 if you include Bamboo. There was the Bamboo stuff. There was the Sakura Festival, whatever, the cherry blossom stuff, the Bunny Day, now May Day.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's I'm hoping that they keep up the pace because it's honestly more reason to keep coming back and checking stuff out.
There's a lot of people I don't know if it's speculating is the right word, but are afraid that since some of the content for just Nintendo's putting out in general this year is getting delayed because of, the pandemic stuff, that we're going to miss out on some normal times we get events because they can't make it. So I wonder how much they did prep, because I imagine all the stuff that's coming out right now was
prepared,
developed or nearly done before the game launched.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like there are plenty of games that are basically like games as a service that are still pumping out content regardless of the pandemic. I think it's probably relatively easy to develop games from home. All you need is a computer or whatever. So
yeah, and Animal Crossing isn't a game that would require a studio, like an in-person studio. I think of games that are getting delayed, like The Last of Us. And I know The Last of Us Part 2, they've said that it's already pretty much done and they're bug testing. But imagine if they needed to tweak a cinematic and they wanted to get a motion capture suit on an actor. They just couldn't do that right now. But Animal Crossing, I don't think they have any stuff like that. So yeah, you're probably right, Dane. If they can work from home, they're probably doing it right now.
Yeah.
A lot of, I don't know. That's something I want to know, because I work for a tech company and everything's going on business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had any sort of real impacts because of this, besides things that actually require physical hardware to be constructed or anything like that. And it's a lot of game companies are saying their products are going to get delayed, and it was just in the back of my head, I'm but really, is this an excuse? Is this just an easy way to have to delay? I know, I was thinking when all the news started coming out where people are delaying games and whatnot, I was Cyberpunk is going to use this to push it back another couple months for sure. Which I guess in that case,
I'm okay
I think the real hard thing is voice acting, and if you're doing mocap, I can see that stuff getting impacted, but I don't know. I feel like a lot more things are getting hit than you would think.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm totally on the same page. I can't help but wonder how many delays are 100% genuinely because of the pandemic, and how much of it is because they just kind of felt like it was a good excuse to keep working on the game. Which, honestly, I mean, I'm okay with both reasons. I think that it's silly how much games have become this time-gated thing for a lot of publishers, where they're we have to release this then because we don't have a game that's coming out then. We need to do good in the third quarter or whatever. So they'll push for releases, and if they don't come out then they'll lose X amount of money or something. It's all the suits who are in charge of that shit, right? So I feel if a game company's we could tell the higher ups that we can't work on the game because we are because of the coronavirus, then it would give us more time to work on this game that we're already strapped to be producing within this time constraint. So I can't help but wonder how many people are taking advantage of this opportunity to kind of actually fine tune the game in the way that they want. Because I don't know, I get the feeling that in a lot of games, especially AAA games, there are the artists who are working on the game, and then there are the big wigs who are in charge of sales and making sure that it comes out in a specific time frame, and those two mindsets clash, I think, very often.
With Animal Crossing specifically too, I know the team that worked on it also worked on Splatoon 2. So there's already precedent that they've been moved from one franchise to another, they're a successful team. It makes sense that they would be in demand, like within Nintendo. So yeah, I wonder if they, I guess it's possible that there's some other project within Nintendo that they could also be working on, maybe in tandem with the development of the support of Animal Crossing, because I doubt that all of their resources need to go to just supporting Animal Crossing, like the same resources they had when they were actually building it from the ground up. So I'd be interested to like, hear from someone there to see what it's like on the ground. But all sorts of things could be happening that could, be potentially slowing down games. But what's weird with Animal Crossing, something I was thinking of is like the events are probably going to be pretty similar year after year. Like that's even assuming that Animal Crossing is still getting support from Nintendo, like active support from Nintendo after this year. But since the game is, real time based, there's still going to be a Bunny Day next year. There's still going to be a May Day next year. So I wonder if the plan for development was, spend the year with, a bunch of developers creating this content for each of the seasons in the game for the whole year. And then the next year, maybe lightly tweak them a little bit with a pared down team with, reduced boots on the ground, actually developing, like maintaining Animal Crossing, and then have that team do something else, like move on to another franchise. Because this team, like, I think we all agree knocked Animal Crossing out of the park. I think they knocked Splatoon 2 out of the park. So I have no idea what they're working on next, but I bet they're working on something right now, because I don't think it takes a whole studio to maintain a game that's already been built.
Yeah, it's very possible that they've split the team in half or something, and that half of them are still working on like future content for this game for the next however many years, and then the other half is like going off and working on full titles. So that's not unreasonable to imagine. I presume. I don't know why I'm doing this voice.
No, I thought you always talked like that. So like you were doing this like American accent before, and I was like, what is he doing? But I'm glad you're kind of talking like I'm used to.
Yes, I'm finally making an effort to use my natural voice.
And I think that's cool. At the Motion Pixels, now that we're in our studio, this is this is our place, and being that this is our place, this is a safe space for you to really be who you want to be. So Jane, I don't want you to feel like you have to be anyone else other than you are, really.
I finally feel comfortable and in my own shoes. And it is my goal to chase away as many of your existing listeners as possible. So I'm just going to keep doing this for the rest of the entire podcast. Yes.
Yeah, we Matt, you're familiar with this. We have a lot of market data.
No, bit's over. Next subject.
Okay. I was going to, speaking of shoes, you had in that stupid fucking bit you were just doing, you used the word shoes. So I was going to piggyback off of that. What do you guys think, maybe Nintendo didn't have the technology, maybe they didn't have the teraflops to have villagers wear shoes. Thoughts?
What are you talking about?
They don't wear pants either.
We're wearing shoes now.
No, Dane, listen, Dane, use your ears, Dane. Jesus. In the game Animal Crossing, Dane, if you're not familiar, there's villagers, other than yourself. If you could kind of
see that.
Can you think, like, just think of other people besides yourself right now? If you just like in your mind's eye, just think of it. But there's these other villagers who are like animals, in Animal Crossing, who they don't wear pants and they don't wear shoes. And I don't know if this is like an homage to Winnie the Pooh or something, but I don't know what's up with that. They just don't do it. And frankly, I think the pants in Animal Crossing New Horizons are a weak point of the game. This is not even a bit. There's like two pairs of pants that I like to wear, and I have like 11 of them, and none of them I think look great. The shoes and the shirts and the hats and the plague masks I think are all cool, but something about the pants. Maybe the villagers just get it, and they're like, we don't want these pants.
Yeah, you ever heard of no shoes, no pants, no service? Yeah. Enough said.
I mean, I don't service my villagers, personally.
That's good.
Speaking of that kind of thing, pants, speaking of pants,
there's these jumpsuits in Animal Crossing, right? And that have both pants and tops and bottoms, one might say. And there's this villager Dom who I see on Twitter all the time being memed. He's this like big pink ram who wears like a tie-dye shirt and is always talking about working out, and he's just very cute. He has these like pink horns, and my girlfriend was playing Animal Crossing earlier, and she has Dom as a villager, and she got a bodysuit, like a jumpsuit in Animal Crossing that's like a fake muscle suit, like one you might find it like.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and she gave it to Dom because he's like a bodybuilder in the game, and he was like super stoked, so he put it on immediately, and the bodysuit only covers his top half, so he has this like, and he's this like huge like puffy ram, so this bodysuit that would normally fit a much like thinner villager, like stretched, so it kind of looked like a JPEG that had been like stretched across his torso, and then he had these like big like muscled arms, on his already very buff arms. So I just thought that was so funny that even when you put a jumpsuit on a villager, they still don't wear pants or the shoes.
That's funny. They just it's funny that it can handle that. Like it's like some of the stuff that when you give villagers, like have you given a villager with an oddly shaped head a hat yet?
Oh my god, it's so funny. I gave one to Meringue, who's this like
the rhino, right?
Yeah, she's a rhino who has like a strawberry for a horn. I gave her my this what do they call it? Tulip hat that I started the game out with. And I gave it to her, and she has this huge head, and the hat like shrank down and just sat on the very top of her head. You guys can laugh now.
I was pausing for the audience laughter that Matt's gonna edit in.
Oh, exactly. the live studio audience,
the canned laughter.
Yeah. Speaking of that too, I was thinking it would be funny eventually if we had a live studio audience who would like, we could make like clap on cue or laugh at our jokes in Animal Crossing when we're filming this, but I just don't trust them not to leave, so we'd have that annoying animation, like someone's leaving your island, and that would that brings up a bigger issue. I just wish we could trust people these days,
Yes. I was thinking you could just have a soundboard with like various clapping and just push it whenever you need it.
That's a much better idea.
Dangerous. My friend actually just got one. This is super off topic. My friend just got one of those and was messing with it all day, and it seems like one of those things you need to really trust the person that has access to a soundboard.
Yeah. Do you guys trust me?
I do, Dane. I trust you.
Sticky.
Oh god. Oh man, that was good.
I don't think that showed up on the recording, but still.
No, I heard it.
I know.
Oh, sticky.
Yeah, but for our listeners who didn't hear the sound bite, Dane just soundboarded the "uh-oh stinky" meme into our podcast without our permission. So, legal's on the way. Security's about to escort Dane out. But besides that, we still got a good podcast ahead of us.
Point being, I've had a soundboard this whole time, and I don't think I've ever used it with you guys. So, I feel like I'm pretty trustworthy with it. I only use it when it's very appropriate.
Very appropriate. That's good.
Although I will admit, when I first got a hold of this thing, yeah, it was definitely meme city for about a few days. But city. You calm down with it.
Yeah, it works. Something we were gonna start doing is I'm gonna transition this to Valorant now because this is good talk. But we got this really good clip of one of our games we were playing like a couple weeks ago. Where, so for those who aren't familiar with Valorant, it's that huge game that blew up on Twitch recently because of how you get the keys. So you probably have heard of it, but it's like a tactical shooter, 5v5, very competitive, very hardcore, similar to Counter-Strike. Yeah. But my friends were queued in with they had one random on their team, and it was this guy, I guess, who was streaming. He was like Twitch TV / something. Not gonna plug him.
/ Ninja. His name was Ninja.
Yeah, / Ninja / Shroud. Oh, but so he was making a dumb play, right? Like he was peeking a corner that was very obviously not something you want to peek. So there's the characters are kind of like, people call Valorant like Counter-Strike with abilities in a way. It's like kind of like Counter-Strike and Overwatch put together, where everybody has like different types of utility that they can use. And my friend in particular had this one character that has this ice orb that you can throw on the ground and it will slow people. So we threw that to stop these people that were coming around this corner. And then this random guy came through and got stuck in it and couldn't get away as the two people were peeking it at him and just yelled at the top of his lungs, "You fucked me!" and died. But we found out he was streaming, so I went back and I clipped it. And
that's amazing.
And so now on this soundboard, we have it. So if that ever happens, we just played over it.
That's awesome.
It's pretty great. I'm going to silence. Here's the clip right here.
You fucked me!
Yeah, so now you guys can go back and listen to that. It's very wonderful. Pulled from a nameless streamer. Nega Shroud, as we'll call him.
Nega Shroud.
Anti-Shroud. Yeah. Yeah. But Valorant's pretty fun. Gus, you've been enjoying it a whole lot more than I thought you would. Do you want to share your thoughts on it a bit?
Okay, so here's my backstories. I'm not a very hard, I play a lot of video games. I'm on this video game podcast called the Motion Pixels Podcast with my co-host Matthew Rawlings. Sometimes Dane Kevin Cook comes on, but I'm not a very hardcore player. Like I don't play, like I've played a tiny bit of Counter-Strike like years ago. I didn't really get into it. I don't really get super into one game. I just love like the video game industry, and I love the video game like community, and just like kind of being a part whatever like the hotness is, or whatever little things I like. Like I nerd out about like dungeon crawlers and roguelikes and stuff, but never get super into a game. But I also am a very competitive person when my friends say that I can't do something. And I was talking to Matt and one of our other friends about I think that we were talking about Rainbow Six Siege. I think the game was a while ago. And this other guy, one of our friends mentioned in passing, he was like, "Yeah, I just didn't think you would be into it because, you're not like hardcore. You're a little more casual." And I don't think I said anything when we were in that conversation, but in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going to get good at Rainbow Six Siege now just to prove him wrong. So I started playing Rainbow Six Siege a bunch and got really into it. I was never super good at it, but I got really into it. And that led into me starting to play Valorant with all of our friends. And I've been trying to play a whole bunch every day to get good enough now that ranked, like there's a competitive mode now that gives you ranks like League or Overwatch. There's like from iron, it goes like iron, bronze, silver, gold, whatever. And I've been playing a bunch so that I can play competitive with my friends because they didn't think I was hardcore enough to do so.
And how's that going?
Pretty good, honestly. I started out, totally just dragging my team down. But now I feel like I'm doing pretty decent, Matt. Like, what do you think of how I've been playing with you?
You've gotten a lot better. It's really cool. Like it was a mean comment. I think one of our friends made. But when you first started playing, your aim was kind of like a bot, and it's not anymore. Like, I think you might remember that somebody was like critiquing your crosshair placement.
Oh, just because it was so bad.
Yeah, it was very strange. But now, no, like we'll be playing and you'll just pop off, and I'll be like, "Is this Gus? What?" It's like it's cool, like how much progress you've made, because you do a lot of the practice, the training range, right? To work on your aim and whatnot.
Yeah, one cool thing about I also work for a tech company like Matthew, and I work from home, and over lunch. I'll typically most every day, if I don't play a match over lunch, I'll just go into the training range and over and over again just practice my aiming, practice ability placement, stuff like that. But mostly I just go in and
practice shooting a bunch of bots so that I can, like you were saying, get my crosshair placement, which is a thing you have to pay attention to in Valorant, because like a headshot is like an instant kill, and just like the time to kill in this game is so quick, much like Counter-Strike, that if your crosshair is not in the right place, you're just gonna, get domed, like I do, did frequently, still do frequently. But yeah, I've been training a bunch, and that's one thing I'll say about Valorant is that I think when we podcasted about this before, I mentioned that I felt like Valorant was very accessible. And I think this goes hand in hand with what I was saying. Like, the training range is extremely good in this game. I know Overwatch has a training range. I don't think Rainbow Six Siege does, but I played a fair bit of Overwatch and a fair bit of Overwatch's training range. I just think that the Valorant training range is so much better than any training range or any like practice mode I've seen in another game before. There's all sorts of difficulties you can set it to in this range with a bunch of bots that spawn in different places, so you can practice like flicking your crosshair from one head to the other. There's bots that just show you the amount of damage you do to them, so you can practice different weapons from different distances. There's like an obstacle course, so you can practice like your movement. It's just, there's so much you can do and get better at, and that's one thing that I love about Valorant, is it's something that I feel encouraged every day to get better at with my friends.
Yeah. And like, so I'm going to shift the conversation a bit now. Like it's cool that they have this tool built in, because in Counter-Strike, there's a lot of just maps you have to download on your workshop. There's nothing built into the game where you can load in and go to a practice range and have all these tools at your disposal. But instead the community's made things, that are like that, and they're a bit better than what's in their range, but for something that's built into the game, it's really good. But this is something that I was trying to decide if it's going to impact the, maybe not longevity, but the quality of different things in this game. Is like Riot is a lot more closed off when compared to Valve.
Oh yeah.
Where like Valve, like for like all their main games, they're very much like, let the community just do things with it. Like Counter-Strike, like almost all the maps have spawned from the community. All the gun skins in CSGO are from the community. And there's this video I saw the other day critiquing the map design in Valorant and kind of comparing them. I guess there's some way that map designers look at maps, and this video was charting it as a very like beginner level map for all the ones that are in Valorant right now. And it's something I've kind of felt like, I feel like I've been playing a lot of Counter-Strike this week also, along with Valorant, and I like the maps a whole lot more. But at the same time, it's really easy when you've had these maps that have been worked on by, hundreds, if not thousands of people over the past like 16 years. Like, I think the youngest map in the current competitive pool in Counter-Strike right now is 8 years old or something like that. Whereas like all these maps are probably by a new team, and they're, a couple months old. And something I wanted to kind of get your guys' viewpoint is like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think is a better approach? Like having maps being made by a community and having a bunch of things that come out and kind of letting people figure out what they like more, or a more closed off and having it with how the game designers want their things to be laid out?
I don't mind if it's closed off to the developers, but I feel like if they're going to do that, then they need to be hyper aware of the criticism that like people are giving these maps and saying like, oh, this can be changed or something, and then take that into consideration whenever they're either updating the maps or making new ones. And I agree with you that it's kind of unfair to compare like the competitive viability of maps that have been tested for years and years and years to a game that has just come out. Oh my God, I'm getting out of my chair again. In real life too. I'm so passionate. I think it's unfair to compare the two just because of the amount of time it's been able to been tested compared to like this new game. I mean, comparing it to my experience with TF2, it's like maps that were made back in 2007 are garbage compared to maps that were made recently. And it's just because people have been able to play test the maps that exist and see like, oh, it's probably not a good idea to have so many chokes, or it's probably not a good idea to have like the spawn so far back from the control point. So they take these suggestions in consideration whenever they're making new maps, and they update old maps as best they can to like accommodate those things. But I don't know. With time, I think Valorant's maps may get better, and I think it's silly for people to be like, yeah, this is a beginner level map. They need to step it up. It's nice. I think it's nice to give that criticism, but it's only going to be effective if the developers actually listen to it. So I guess I don't know how Riot deals with things in League of Legends. I don't know anything about how that game is developed, but I don't know if they have a history of like listening to their audience and giving them what they want as far as like balance decisions go. Do you guys know anything about that?
See, it's funny because it's a MOBA, and they've basically have had the same map for 10 years. Because MOBAs are all played on the same 3-lane thing that doesn't change.
Well, I'm talking more about like character balance and stuff. Like, do they listen to the community whenever they give them feedback on like how balance should be done?
I don't know how much. I know they address things a lot. Something that a lot of people are excited about with Valorant coming out is they expect a higher frequency of updates, seeing how they've dealt with a lot of other things, and it's kind of like it's one of those things that they are passionate about doing, is having like a 2-week update cycle. So you can expect changes to their games every 2 weeks. And they've had that in League. They've been doing that with their card game Legends of Runeterra recently. They'll have a new balance patch out every 2 weeks, just tweaking things just a little bit. Yeah. And they've kind of had that now in Valorant. Mm-hmm. Granted, it's a closed beta and they should be having very frequent updates. But with things like that, characters, I guess weapons, like just the way that gameplay goes about, they update. I don't know how that's going to translate to maps, because like you can tweak, maybe there's like viewing angles in games like Valorant and Counter-Strike are very important. They could totally tweak things like I know Valve has done that with a lot of maps in CSGO. They'll like tweak a little portion that maybe had a weird clipping issue, or there was like a weird object in the way that made it too easy to hide. I imagine they have the same sort of infrastructure to make those changes to maps in Valorant. But there's also like a general concept of how a map is laid out that you can't radically overhaul. That's more of something you can't just fix. You would have to make an entirely new map.
Yeah, there's a difference between like this sightline is dumb versus like this entire section of the map is dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Like, I'm confident they're gonna have good things. Because like the video I watched was it wasn't like some notable like map designer talking about it. I imagine it was just some sort of fan, but I thought it was interesting because I did kind of have those thoughts, and it was something that kept bringing me back to Counter-Strike this week. Was I just really love like Dust 2 and Mirage and Inferno. Like some of those maps are like they just feel so good, and the maps in Valorant right now, like I like them, but they have this weird design that I don't know if they're gonna stick with, where like every map has a quirk. Like there's 3 maps in the game right now. There's a map called Haven where the quirk is there's traditionally only 2 bomb sites in Counter-Strike maps. And on this map, there's 3 bomb sites. There's another map called Bind where the quirk is there's teleporters that connect the map in weird ways so you can rotate and get around quicker.
Like Halo.
Yeah, kind of. And then the third map is called Split, and it has these ropes that you can go up and down that make an audible noise, and it's more based around that map more than any of them is based around having a higher position. Like both bomb sites have like this big place you can stand and look down upon the site. And so like every map has like a quirk, and it's just there's a lot of people just getting very passionate, and I feel like are drawing conclusions way earlier than they can, because you don't like they could totally. Some people feel like they're not going to bring these mechanics into different maps, or that they feel like every map in the future is going to have a gimmick to make it feel more unique. And And I feel like that's just an incorrect conclusion a lot of people are drawing so quick, since there's like literally nothing to base that upon other than how the maps are in closed beta.
But I think the maps in Valorant are all really good right now. And I also think, like what you were saying earlier about MOBAs, MOBAs typically just have the one map. It seems to me like Valorant isn't a game that's going to have a bunch of new maps like a game like Siege might.
Oh yeah, no. They're going to have like I think they're launching with 4, which sounds like very like nothing. I remember like when like Battlefield or I don't know, some other big shooters come out, people are like, you have 9 maps? Yeah, this game has 4. But like
I think
it's
appropriate though, I think, for that type of game.
Because if you're going to play on a map and you're going to play it in a competitive sense, you need to know it like the back of your hand.
Yeah. Map knowledge is like half the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and it's also why like in Counter-Strike, it's been 20 years and they're still playing on old maps because people don't want to learn new maps, and you're going to, like if you just have to keep relearning things, it's hard. But I don't know. I was just curious because like I think a sad part about it, which coming from Valve Games, like I know you have a good background in that, Dane, and I know Gus does too, because we both kind of in our late teenage years played a lot of Valve stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like I really liked a lot of the community content that would come out of these games. Like it's sad that there won't be a story of like a map like Dust 2, like Dust 2 is such an iconic map that it's actually funny. If you a little bit of history on Dust 2,
which is
the guy that designed it. Yeah, Counter-Strike map. The map's design, like its theme, was based off an original like pre-current art design TF2 screenshot.
What? What?
Yeah, like when the old TF2 where it was still like modern military shooter.
I think I've seen that screenshot you're talking about. It does kind of look like Dust 2 a little bit.
Yeah, like this, they had that screenshot, and it was when the original Counter-Strike was coming out in like 1999 or 2000. This guy saw it and was like, I'm going to make that map in this other game that's coming out. And so Dust 1 was based off that, and then he took a lot of elements, making Dust 2 and having that. And it's like, that's just like cool, right? Like I don't know. Like I really like community content, and it just sucks that you won't get some of that stuff in this game.
Well, one thing,
I don't know.
Matt, this is something I was talking to you about earlier this week with the competitive side of Valorant. Riot announced that they're going with a more community approach for their esports. They're not going to be managing the esports league the way they do with League of Legends. Now, I don't know a whole lot about League of Legends, but I'm under the impression that they have like a big annual like tournament like Dota with the international. And then throughout the year, they have like qualifiers or tournaments or whatever.
It's the biggest esport event ever.
Exactly, which is why it's crazy to me, really interesting to me, that Riot has come out and said that they're going to let the community handle the esports side of Valorant, a game that's like built from the ground up to be like, the meme is like esports ready.
There was a big caveat. Like I reread this article when you sent me that, and it's initially. Yeah. They're gonna let the community decide like the format in which the game should be played, or how a tournament should be structured. I think it's really smart. Like I imagine like the way I kind of know how CSGO does theirs right now, and it's kind of similar to what I think they're gonna do with Valorant, where there's a couple different leagues that all host their own tournaments, and a lot of them are region based. So there's like North American circuits, European circuits, so on and so forth. But then I think 3 times a year, Valve will not host, but I guess they will work with another partner to put on a tournament called the Major, where it's like the biggest tournament because there's a huge prize pool that's just money Valve throws into it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the approach they're going to take with Valorant. A lot of small leagues, so you can let teams develop and shape. and even like the format in which these tournaments should be run. And then a couple times a year, host the big official Valorant majors that's, put on by Riot. Because something that I think that they might be trying to avoid is like the Overwatch League. When that was first announced, a lot of people are really excited about it because it was a big league that was basically sponsored by Blizzard, that they were looking to kind of replace the current model that we have in esports, where there's a bunch of independent teams that will make up this league. They wanted teams to be based on by like city. Yeah. So like there's like, oh man, I forgot a bunch of the teams.
There's like the Cleveland Steamers,
exactly. There's like London Spitfire,
California
San
Raisins.
Francisco Shock. Just like a bunch of teams, but which is funny because they're still owned by these traditional esports teams, like like Liquid or Cloud9. I think those own Overwatch League teams, but it was like a big, more like centralized approach to having your esports league rather than a bunch of independent things, and that's starting to crack a bit. Because I don't know, like if you throw all this money into this central league and then it turns out people don't like your game in 2 years, it kind of sucks, because then everything you built just kind of tumbles down and you take on a lot of this risk. And I think it is a lot more smart to let the community do it, because it's like a grassroots movement, right? If it's going to be successful, then it's successful.
I get the impression that they're just giving the opportunity to the community to decide like how the game should be played at a competitive level, instead of like making rules based on their assumptions on how it should be played, so they don't have to like do all this tweaking later on. They can just be like, all right, how would you guys do it? Because you guys know, you guys are the ones that are playing at this high level, or we're just the developers. We don't know. So they're letting them figure it out maybe for like, I don't know, a couple seasons, and then they'll step in and be like, all right, we're going to use your guys' rule set, your guys' like, idea of how it should be run, and then we're just going to take over from here. I think that's probably the plan that they have set, but that doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't make you immune to the Overwatch problem, which is when people don't care about your game in 2 years, like what it's just money wasted, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I was just saying it's more like it's a big risk, like that Blizzard model that they made. Where
it was a big risk because they were so sure of themselves and they were so like, oh yeah, this is how esports should be run, when like they spent a good majority of that time like figuring shit out instead of just running it. You know what I mean? They were making so many different like edits to the class composition, and the meta was like, it went through like 10 different iterations, and it was just a mess. And it's all because Blizzard was like, yeah, this is just all you got to do is just slap a name on a team and then you got an esport, you know what I mean? So
and they also made a huge mistake that making it go to Google on YouTube. That's where they stream all the games now.
That's silly. I don't understand that.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was on Twitch for like the first 2 years, and it would pull like, I don't know, and there was view botting and whatnot, like, so nobody really knows the actual viewer count, but it like the number that would show up on Twitch would be like, depending on the match, but somewhere between like 60 to 120,000 people watching it. And now like I'll occasionally go check in on YouTube and it's like 30K.
Here's the thing, that number that you're saying, by the way, is the peak. I remember very clearly that the average was closer to around 30,000 for big tournaments, and I remember thinking, wow, that's actually surprisingly low.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I kept up with Overwatch quite a bit in the beginning because a lot of my close friends were trying out Overwatch because it was like basically TF3 to them, and I was just surprised at how little viewership, and I have theories on why it was like that. And one of the theories is that Overwatch in general, I think, was viewed by most people as a predominantly casual game, mostly because it was heavily played on consoles. And with Valorant, as far as I can tell, that's just a PC game, right? So I don't think that they're not going to have that problem. And two, Overwatch is terrible to watch on a live stream because there's so many particles going around that it kills the live stream. Like, it's just the way that a video encoding works when live streaming video or playing like video on demand in general. The more like particles and like little tiny like artifacts you have on screen, the worse quality the video is going to get naturally over time because it just screws with it. I mean, there's like a ton of videos explaining why this happens, but you'll see it if you watch any video like where there's a bunch of birds, like a big flock of birds flying on screen, or if you're watching a video of confetti, it'll go to like 240p for no reason. And that's because it can't keep up with like all of the different colored shit that's on screen. Same thing when you're playing Overwatch and streaming Overwatch. There's so much stuff going on screen that it tanks the video quality, and you actually cannot even see what's happening even more than usual. So I feel like it's not a very good game to watch, and I think that really hurt its streamability. I think by a lot.
Yeah, I found it hard to watch because I a lot of my friends that were pretty into it would watch it all the time, and I would join them. And like I played the game, and I kind of like I know how to play. I'm not an Overwatch god or anything, but
sure, yeah,
I was decent enough. But watching Overwatch League games I was still lost.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's so hard. It was really hard to follow everything. So yeah,
there's just a lot going on. I don't know. Overwatch is a weird game. It impacted a lot of like my group of friends and like especially my community because it was so similar to Team Fortress 2, and everybody was saying that it was like the TF2 killer for the longest time. Turns out it's not. TF2 will never die, but the satisfaction almost that I feel is that it turned out to be exactly what I expected it to be, which is another fad game. And maybe we can transition into the concept of fad games, because you brought up earlier, Gus, that you don't really consider yourself like a big, like you're not like into any specific video game. You're just into gaming in general. Yeah, that's like the most. I think that's the most like common outlook that most people have, and like that's why these games like Valorant blow up, like go crazy over time. Like it. I mean, you guys remember, PUBG and Apex, like. Those games were massive for a year, and now how many people are playing those games? It's just people like they find a game that they're going to play with their friends for a summer, and then a new game comes out and they move on. Like it's just how the gaming universe works right now.
Yeah, I think Valorant is a game that has thought, or a game that comes from a design standpoint of having thought about some of this stuff. Like you were talking about how in Overwatch there's all these particles you can't really see. In Valorant, the maps are really plain, honestly. Yes. And the animations that you see when you're playing are really plain. There's not a lot of particles floating around.
It's very, very clear what's happening. And I think that's good game design, especially for a competitive game. And I think that, I can't remember if you told me this or if I just heard it from somebody, but they intentionally designed the game to not look like amazing so that it could be run on lower end computers, right? Like they intentionally made it not take a whole lot of like computing hardware or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's genius. I think that more games should be like aiming for medium end PCs. I have no idea why game companies are like, yeah, let's design the entire game on a supercomputer. Because it's just like, that's not what your average player base is going to have at their disposal. Like you got to design it with lower to medium end PCs in mind. And I think that's one of the best things that I heard about the development of Valorant is like the game designers know that not everybody has a god PC.
Yeah, I have a very good PC, not to toot my own horn. And I did toot my own horn. Sue me. But one thing that's interesting, that like what you're saying, like I run this game at the highest settings and it looks fine. But the benefit I really get is not in graphical quality, it's frame rate, which I think encourages like a higher level of play. Like if you're really going to get into Valorant, like, and you want to like go pro or whatever, you're probably going to get
more better at the game. That's how it works.
Well, I think like if you're playing at a serious level, you're going to want more frames.
Yeah,
whereas
of course,
it doesn't really matter. Like you can play at 60 frames and it's going to be perfect for you. And you can probably do that with Valorant on like almost any PC. Like this game like is super lean.
That's great. I like that.
Mm-hmm. It's funny though, like they really another reason they made it so like they want anybody to play it, but they also want everybody to play it at a high frame rate, because a lot of the developers on this game were like ex CSGO players, if not pro CSGO players. And like there's a thing in that community where I think anything under like 240 frames a second isn't good enough.
What?
And like, yeah, like the people that play that game at the highest level will have like the ultra high refresh rate monitors that hit up to 240. And you need to run it at that if you want to play it at the highest level. Like I play Valorant at 144, which I think feels pretty good. Like I really enjoy 144. Like I play, when I play Animal Crossing, I play it on my computer with my capture card, and I notice like that Animal Crossing is only running at like I think 30, and it feels weird to look at when I go from Switch game to game running at high frame rate. But I don't know. I find that stuff interesting because for most people it's perfectly fine, but I find it funny that when you get to that really high level, there's people that are, and they could be right, but they're very confident that you can't do as well if you don't have like that amazing max refresh rate or whatever.
2,000 frames or something. It's kind of infamous, I think, in TF2 especially, because there's so many different things that were added to the game afterwards, mostly hats. But well, I mean, like, I'm not even joking. Like, hats kill the frame rate in TF2. So there are very popular configs that you can basically install that are basically competitive configs. They disable all hats, and they basically just like turn all of the settings down to like mega low. And I don't know, if you tune into any relatively competitive stream of TF2, you'll notice that their graphic settings are like majorly depleted because they're trying to get like the most amount of frames as possible. And it's just it's funny, but I mean, I don't know. I think that there's this mindset where if you have, like you were saying, if you have your frames cranked up as high as possible, then it'll make you better at the game. Also, an offshoot of that is I have to go into the stream of every competitive TF2 player and ask them what their mouse settings are, so that I can have those mouse settings so that I'll be as good as them. I don't know if that's like something that happens in other competitive games, but
for sure.
I see it all the time. It's like, what settings does the pro use? I'm going to use those settings. It's like, it's a weird mentality to have where it's just like, yeah, if I use those settings, I'll be good like them, when those settings are entirely preferential.
I don't know, man. Like I really got into PC gaming. Like I've had a decent PC gaming computer for a while, but I didn't really start caring about that stuff, like playing better at games, until like, I don't know, like 3-4 years ago. And I used to play with incredibly high sense, because like I remember on Xbox, you would if you play Halo, you would have to have your sense at 10 so you could flick around really quick and like shoot people. And that's the opposite that what people do on PC. So when I first got it, like I would have, I don't know, maybe like a slight wrist movement, do like a 180, right? So my mouse would be all over the place, and it makes it really hard to aim when you're like that. And as I've had friends that kind of do that, where they'll be like, oh yeah, my sense and DPI are what Shroud uses. Like I have friends that are like that. No, but see, I adopted that. Like, there's in our Discord, we have a benchmark called the Sean benchmark, where whenever we start playing a new game, like Sean's our friend that's just really good at all these different games. Like, he just gets in and he's insane. And people will be like, hey, Sean, what's your sense? And people will just copy it because it's a good baseline. And like, I've done it and I've gotten better, because there's like,
it's a placebo, man. I promise you, it's all preferential. You basically just have to play and say, I wish that I could move my mouse faster, and then you up your sense. Like, it's just as simple as that.
I agree with it being a preference, but I think there's a baseline, like there's a good concept in what I guess pros do that model it. Like, very low sense is good, because I used to do. There's like you can go down this forever, but there's this thing where it's wrist aiming versus elbow aiming, where you either move with your wrist or you move with your elbow. And as you transition to elbow, you need to make much wider movements to go. So now in all my games, I don't follow a strict thing because it is dumb because your sense should be based off your mouse pad and like how much space you have.
Yeah.
But I use a huge mouse pad. And so what I do is one flick across my mouse pad is 180.
Yeah.
So I have to swipe across my mouse pad twice to like turn in a full circle. But what's great about that is, and it is preference because this is what I've trained myself, but I've noticed it's easier to get better because you have a higher degree of movement you can make. Like you can make a very precise movement a lot easier on a very low
what you're
sensitivity.
saying is like generally lower sensitivity is better for precision games. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, that TF2 is one of those games, and I've known so many different people. I mean, like I've played with probably dozens of different TF2 players who play at high levels, and they tell me like what their settings are, and they're so wildly, crazily different from each other that it's just like insane to me how some people play the game. Like I knew one guy who he bound jump to right click. And that's how he'd played the game for 10 years. It's like, what? Like, what's funny is that like if he was a streamer, people would go into a stream and say, what are your settings? Oh, I bound jump to right click. And then they'd go and they'd change it so that their jump is bound to right click for no reason other than this other guy who's really good at the game does that because he likes it that way. It's like, it's weird that he likes it that way, but that isn't what makes him good at the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I was just saying there's usually that right click thing is dumb. That right thing. But when people at a high level make a weird choice, sometimes there's a good reason. Sometimes. It's habit. Like there's a lot of CSGO players that still play in 4x3, which you don't see younger people that come up in that scene do because it's fucking stupid. But they do it. And then, like, if anybody plays CSGO and hears that, they're gonna.
You mean 4x3 stretched? Because the best TF2 player by most accounts, Banny, plays 4x3 stretched, and everybody always asks him, "Why does your game look weird?" Oh, I play in 4x3 stretched, and I can't imagine how many people have probably changed their goddamn resolution to that. As a result.
It's either that or 4x3 or 4x3 stretched. Like, there's a difference, and like people give you reasons, but a lot of it comes down to like. Yeah, the people that do that were playing the original version of this game when they only had a CRT monitor.
Yeah, exactly.
That was 4x3, right?
It was just because that was the only option.
Yeah. But it's dumb.
My main point is, you're right that there is a baseline, especially in certain games, like you said, like I agree that lower sensitivity and precision games is best. Like TF2, I have the lowest sensitivity by far of any game that I play. Like it's really weird going from like playing Fallout all day and then I boot up TF2 and like I have to like drag my mouse all the way across the mouse pad to turn around, and but it actually does help, like because like you said, you can make more precision aim movements and you don't really have to do that in other games. But my point being that there's this weird like mentality where it's just like, who's the best at the game? All right, now I need to like copy their settings, and then that'll make me good at the game. And then whenever they find themselves doing well at the game, they're gonna be like, oh, this strategy works. I'm gonna just steal the settings of every good player. And it's mostly just like, oh no, you just got used to those settings. Like you just get used to any setting and then like tweak it to your preference. Then of course you're gonna get better at the game. Getting better at the game is mostly just a result of you playing a lot rather than settings, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's no like copying Shroud. If everybody could just copy Shroud's sensitivity,
everybody would be Shroud. Yeah,
everybody would be clicking heads, but you don't see that.
No. Yeah, man. I followed our buddy Sean, who's the guy good at games. I followed his sensitivity when I first started, and immediately just like did so bad that I like doubled his sensitivity and started to like feel maybe sort of normal. So, I mean, I think, maybe it's good to, if you've never adjusted those things before, or, with whatever game you're playing in that specific game, if you haven't messed around with the settings before, copying, your friend who's good at the game, or copying Shroud or, some other streamer's settings might get you to just start thinking about that. So I think that's where that value comes in. But I mean, like, really, it just comes down totally
attention.
Yeah, it's totally just preference and, getting good.
And like I said, it's all mouse pad, right? Like I know you have a much smaller mouse pad than Sean, so his sense would not work for you. That would be really painful.
Yeah, and Sean also, I don't know, he has a much bigger brain than I do too, so that goes along with it.
So he can move his mouse across his brain.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Dane, I'm interested. So, we're talking about Valorant. When I tried to get you to play Valorant when it first came out, you were pretty indifferent to it. Why is that?
Well, there's two reasons, and one of the reasons I actually kind of it's funny because I never really thought too hard about why I wasn't interested in it. I just thought, it doesn't look interesting to me. And then Matt kind of asked me this question off pod, and it kind of forced me to think about, why am I not interested in this game that obviously everybody is really like gung ho about? Because I was interested in playing like the other big games that came out. Like I played a bit of Apex. I played a bit of PUBG. I played a bit of Overwatch, obviously. But I will tell you that the two reasons, the one that I kind of came up with when talking with Matt was, I'm just not into the concept of tactical shooters. I'm much more into arena shooters, which he kind of brought this up as like, oh, did you play Halo? It's like, yeah, Halo is like the game that I loved playing as a kid and grew up with, basically. And that was like the first person shooter that I ever really fell in love with and still love to this day. Like I still play the releases that they're doing on PC and stuff. So, but that and, TF2 is an arena shooter and stuff and more Quake kind of things. Are more appealing to me as far as like the first person shooter genre goes. Tactical shooters, like I've played a fair bit of CSGO with friends and without friends, and I don't know, it just feels very repetitive. It feels very like surgical and weird. I don't know. It just doesn't really appeal to me. And I'm not saying that it's like a bad game design or anything like that. It doesn't gel with me. So that was one main reason, and two is I'm constantly on the lookout for games that I will play for years rather than play for like a summer. So these I'm going to keep calling Valorant a fad game until it proves me wrong, but I truly do believe that no one's going to care about this game in a year.
No, I think that's fair, but you have to think like the game, the company behind this is Riot, where they've made one game.
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
is like their third game.
Yeah, I have high expectations for it just because Riot's in charge of it and they have done well with other games in the past. However, I mean, Blizzard also has a pretty good track record with games, and Overwatch is dying. So I don't really necessarily think that the company behind it has a whole lot to say about the longevity of a game these days.
Is that true? Is Overwatch dying?
No help in part to Valorant coming out. I hear a lot of people who used to play Overwatch all the time are moving to Valorant. So.
Oh yeah, there was that guy, what's his name? Sinatra. Who moved mid-season in Overwatch to Valorant recently, like a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, Overwatch is, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it. As like a casual game, Overwatch is doing fine. It has a good player base. Sure. Like a lot of people still play it and are still interested in it. But at the level that they want it to be, competitive Overwatch is kind of dying in the green.
That's what I'm mostly referring to. Is just the competitive scene. But maybe to me, I feel like a thriving competitive scene is synonymous with how a game is doing. So I don't know. That's just how I feel, at least.
Dane, I think it's really fair, honestly, for you to say that Valorant is a fad game, because this game came about, like the reason why I'm playing it, the reason why Matt's playing it, is because we did this whole like you watch a stream for long enough, you might get a drop of the key for the game, and that's a completely artificial way to build hype for the game, like generate a fad of people playing Valorant. So, I mean, really, it is up to them to prove if this game has longevity. I think it does, because it seems like such a distilled, it seems mechanically it's so distilled to be competitive, to be very clean cut, work really well, and feel good in the same way that games like CSGO and Overwatch feel good. So I have a lot of faith in it. But I mean, this game,
really is like the result now of like a marketing team that has created the biggest game in the world, like League of Legends.
Yes, exactly. So it has that going for it, which I'm excited to find being the reality, because I want there to be like mainstay games. In fact, like I said, I'm constantly on the lookout for a game that I'll play for years rather than a couple months. And so I'm always like thinking in the long term, right? I'm like, oh man, how long can I play this game for? Can I play for years? Fuck yeah, I can. Like, yes, I'm into this game. I love it. Like, that's one of the main reasons why I'm into Fallout 76, is because the game, it's going to be around for a long time, and I'm going to be able to basically just play it forever as long as the servers are up. So, like, I don't know. When it comes to those kinds of games where everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon all at the same time, I get a little like iffy about whether I'm going to be there for a while or not. You know what I mean? Is this the kind of thing where I'm going to get really, because I've also had this problem where I'll be really, really into a game. I'll get really into a game, right? And all of my friends are getting really into a game. And then by the time that I'm just like, I've mastered this game. Oh yeah, this game is like my game. I'm going to play this game for years and years and years. They all like lose interest because some other game came out and they've moved on. And I'm like, oh, what, new game? No, I just got good at this game. Why is everybody moving on? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of confidence in that area for that game. But that's a lesser to a degree of why I'm not that interested in it. The main reason is just the type of game that it is just doesn't appeal to me.
I'm curious with what you were saying before. You were talking about how Fallout 76 seems like a game that you can just keep playing forever as long as the servers are up. What is it about that game? And I know we've talked about in past episodes about how Fallout 76 has this really cool like community run economy that you're interested in. But what is it specifically about Fallout 76 that makes you think it has this longevity that you're looking for?
Well, it has longevity for me specifically, and it's a small community, so it's like not necessarily like a huge game, but that's never really important to me. Obviously, I'm a big fan of TF2, which is, it's been around forever, and I've put so many hours into it, and I've played it for years and years and years. But the size of the community has never like concerned me. It's just I like the game. But as far as Fallout 76 goes, I mean, it's just a game that I can play every day and have fun doing it. Like, just there's always just something to do. You know what I mean? It's not anything like TF2 in that it's an arena shooter and you go in and you play a match and you're like, oh, I played a few matches today and I got some kills and I top scored my team. You know what I mean? It's nothing like that. It's more like an MMO. So it's more like you log in and do dailies or do a couple events or something, or play with your friends. And I got a few of my TF2 friends into Fallout lately, so I've been playing with them, and they're like low level. They're like level 15 running around, and it's really cool to hear like their reactions to stuff that I've played that I experienced like 2 years ago. But yeah, I don't know. It's fun to me. It has a longevity to me for different reasons, but it still does. Like, I don't know. I can see myself maybe taking a couple breaks from it every once in a while, but I don't know. I've always come back to Fallout. Like, I think I've come back to Fallout 76 like 3 times now. Like, I've played it for a long time, uninstalled it like after I got bored with it, or moved on to a different game for the time being or something, or got like super back into TF2 or something. So I don't know. It seems like that's going to keep continuing until they kill the servers or something, which I don't see happening anytime soon because Bethesda has infinite money.
Yeah, for me personally, I see Animal Crossing like how you're describing. Like, it doesn't, I guess it has dailies in that, like, every day you go in and like you can pick your fruit and go and, take care of talking to your villagers, see what they're up to and whatnot. But I found myself, for the past month and a half, and this is very unlike me. I typically just hop from game to game. I found myself every single day. I think I've maybe skipped like 3 days since Animal Crossing came out. But I go in every day, play for, at least like an hour or so. And I really enjoy that. It feels like, especially in these weird times, it feels like a really great piece of escapism where,
I go in and I know what I'm getting into, and I feel like I'm slowly building up something. Like in this case, I've generated enough wealth to build this magnificent podcast studio, and I'm sure you have similar things in Fallout.
Yes, of course. Like today, I found this gun that I was looking for literally all week. I mean, Josiah can tell you, every night I get on and I just bitch and moan to him. I was like, I can't fucking find this gun I want. And he's just like, yeah, man, I've been looking too. I can't find it. It's like really rare. Like, and we've been checking like all of the trade discords and stuff. Today I log on and this guy messaged me and he was just like, I have the gun you want. Please trade me this other gun that I know is worth like 3 or 4 times more than the gun that he was offering, but it doesn't matter to me. I just want this thing. And so I did the trade, and I was so excited, and it was so awesome. And now it's like, I did the thing. Like this is what I was working for, and I can bask in the glory of this thing. And when that wears off, I'll have another thing that I'll be like grinding for. I mean, I have a bunch of armor pieces. I like the cool thing about MMOs and the cool thing about, well, I mean, I don't typically like MMOs because of the combat, but the cool thing about this MMO in particular, which is it shares that trait with a lot of other MMOs, is there's a bunch of very specific things that you want to grind for because you're like, this is the way my character is built, and this is like these are the weapons, the armor pieces that will benefit my character specifically. And so you basically sit there and you list out like, okay, here is exactly what I want, down to the exact legendary effect, down to the exact armor type. This is what I want. So now you have this goal that you're working towards, and you're constantly like playing the game, trying to just chip away at that list, like chip away at that wish list one day at a time. And that I feel like is very similar in a way to like how Animal Crossing is appealing to a lot of people, is like, I'm going to log in. I hope that Nook's shop has this piece of furniture that I really want to put in my bedroom. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to keep looking on Nookazon, see if somebody's selling it for cheap. You know what I mean? So it's just stuff to do. And I like that. I like that a lot. And I think that you're getting a taste of that kind of thing in Animal Crossing. I feel like Animal Crossing is a much more like laid back version, but I mean, Fallout, and as we've talked about on the podcast multiple times, Fallout and Animal Crossing have very weird similarities in that way.
Oh yeah,
where you just log in to find the rare thing randomly. You know what I mean? There's a certain amount of RNG that makes those games fun. So.
Oh, dude. Okay. Speaking of that specific thing, for this podcast, I was trying to get us for the set the moon. In Animal Crossing, it's this big.
I love that thing. I got that one I got it from somebody for like relatively cheap. They were selling a bunch of them. I think they like crafted them. I don't know where they got them from, but yeah, they're awesome. I have one on my island.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's like floating. It's huge. It's the moon, and it looks just like it. And I wanted to put that in the background for the people watching the video. We have a Godzilla. I was going to put the moon there instead, but when I tried to track it down. I found someone on Nookazon selling it for what I thought was a reasonable price of about 570,000 bells. And not bad. And I found them on Discord, and we started talking, and I was like, oh, so like 570 bells seems fair. What's your dodo code? And she was like, wait, do you want just the recipe or the moon itself? And I was like, oh, I mean, I don't have 5-10 star fragments. So I want the moon. And she was like, actually, that'll be 3.5 million bells. And I was like, what? And I, have quite a few bells in Animal Crossing, but 3.5 was a little out of my budget for the moon. But that kind of thing is cool because you have this thriving underbelly of people trying to milk you for all of the bells that you're worth, which is just funny to me that I'm having this like conversation with someone somewhere else in the world about selling the moon to me for $3.5 million, or bells in this case. But yeah, just like the disparity of I thought I was going to get it for this price, but it's actually this other price because I don't know, I guess the market has worked in such a way where people agree that the moon is worth like almost 4 million bells. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing is just so fun to me. With like the unexpectedness of this. Like, yeah, there's Nookazon where you can go and like, much like its real life counterpart with much less wealthy owners like Jeff Bezos.
the absolute pleb compared to Tom Nook. Yeah.
Yeah. The incel Amazon CEO and
owned.
the Chad Tom Nook.
Get on.
Get owned, Bezos.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just love the organicness of the like community that forms around these like economics games. Like TF2 is the same way. Like when I was really into TF2, I would spend almost all of my time on these trading servers where you would just run into all sorts of people, some trying to scam you, some who were just there to hang out like I was and, you know, buy hats for reasonable amounts of scraps, and just do that to pass the time. But I love that kind of thing. How the community just like gets weird about stuff.
I hate that kind of thing. This all makes so much sense. I was like you love this game for the weird, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but there's that slight community market aspect, right? And then Dane has the same thing for Fallout. And I'm just here being like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I hate doing that in real life. Like, I hate, like, when we were kids, Gus would, like, I remember he would, whenever he wanted something, he would sell another thing he had to buy the other thing.
Because I never had any money, but I had, like, one Xbox, so I would sell the Xbox to get, you know, a PS4. One time I sold a Zune to get an iPod Nano or something like that.
Yeah. Well, see, and I've always hated stuff like that. Like I was in this situation where it's like I want to get rid of my car because I don't drive it, but I hate dealing with things like that, so I think I might just donate it because I don't want to deal with selling it. Because it just bugs me. I hate having to resell things, and that carries over to games too. Where I think my game that I like most, that's kind of set up to be like an MMO, is like Destiny 2. Because you don't have to deal with any of that bullshit. It's like, you want a gun, you just do an event, grind for it, get the drop. Yeah, it's like, I can do that. I'd rather waste my time than, you know, talk to other people and wheel and deal. Like, I don't like the haggle. I don't like any of that. It's just it's so funny. Like, you know, I get why it's appealing. It's just, it's hilarious to...
I mean, it's presumptuous to think that I like doing that stuff in real life. I don't. I just like doing it in video games because it feels a lot less, I don't know, intense, and it feels like you're getting a taste of what it would be like to do that in real life without all of the actual real life repercussions if something goes wrong. So,
I wasn't saying you must like it in real life. I was just saying I know. Yeah, I was more illustrating that I hate it so much that I won't even do it in a video game.
I see. I get it. To me, it's like living a life that I could never live in real life. You know what I mean? It's like I have this weird attraction to being like I don't know. I guess a capitalist, and I'm too much of a pussy to do it in real life. So I just do it in video games. You know?
Yeah, the one bit I've ever done of that was like with buying and selling magic cards, like the actual paper ones.
Yeah.
And I always like I would do it because you got to move these things that are like they're just so expensive that you have to move around your collection if you want to have things to play.
Yeah.
But like this one time this guy disputed my eBay purchase and like he basically got away with like an $80 thing that I sold him. And I was like, "You know what? I'm playing Hearthstone."
Yeah. eBay is like terrible, man. I don't understand how anyone's still using that website. I thought that website died, man. I'm surprised people still use it. It's like, what? Like, that's like a primitive to me. I don't know why. Like, bidding on items? Come on.
Yeah, it is.
Just buy them. Stupid.
Yeah, God.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, all that stuff. All right. Gus, I want to hear your take on this hunt for the Wilderpeople? What was it?
Yeah, Hunt for the Wilderpeople. And it's called Hunt for the Wilderpeople because it's about these two characters. I'll get into it a little bit, but it's about these two characters who go out into the bush in New Zealand and are running away from the world and later the police. And they like are fascinated by wildebeests. And while they're like fugitives, they like create like a name for themselves in the news by calling themselves the Wilderpeople. And so taking a step back, this is a movie I watched the other day. It's on Hulu,
It's called The Hunt for the Wilderpeople. It's directed by Taika Waititi, who you may know as the director of What We Do in the Shadows, Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder, the new Marvel movie coming out whenever Marvel movies come out. But really, really cool director. And he has this like a sense of humor and heart. It's a really cool mix where this movie, to me, I think he wrote it and directed it. I could be wrong. It has like the heart and focus on adventure that movies from the 80s and 90s, like Hook, if you've seen Hook, that's a movie I think about all the time because I feel like that's like a genre film that doesn't get made anymore. That's like a almost family adventure movie, but it's not just for kids.
It's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg doesn't make Steven Spielberg movies anymore.
Yeah, he makes the BFG for some reason, but
yeah, he makes Lincoln, or what was it, War Horse? Fucking stupid movies.
All I remember about War Horse is in the trailer for it, they just said over and over, "Be brave, be brave," and I just thought it was so like intense. And the movie's called War Horse, and it's like, is this horse brave? Like who is brave in this situation?
Yeah, the horse is brave. They're telling the horse to be brave.
I'm sure War Horse is great. But, and also, Dane, tread lightly because this is a pro-Lincoln podcast. So if you're going to be throwing shade at Steven Spielberg's Lincoln film.
It was so boring.
Oh my God. All right. Dane's been kicked from the call, but
Daniel Day-Lewis is pretty good, but I mean...
Daniel Day, who? I thought that was just Abraham Lincoln himself in that role.
They revived him. They had his head frozen.
Daniel Day-Lewis melts into the role of Abraham Lincoln in such. Okay, I can't, Matt. Okay, I can't. You're winding me up. I'm getting gassed up. Okay, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, a film by Taika Waititi that, it's like this like adventure movie, but like a comedy still about this kid. He's this like big fat like 13-year-old kid. Kid's probably like 250 pounds. He wears these like Bape hoodies that like zip all the way up so it like covers your face. They have, his hoodie has like money bags all over it. He wears like a big puffy jacket. He's this kid who's been in and out of juvie his whole life. And Child Protective Services like hates him because they always have to move him from house to house because he's just like always getting into trouble and like setting shit on fire and running away. And they move him to, a house in the middle of the wilderness with this woman who takes him in as a foster kid, who has a husband who's like real outdoorsy, and they live out in the wilderness in New Zealand. And the kid starts to like it, and he likes it so much he actually like wants to stay, which he's never wanted to stay at like a foster house before. But then the woman who took him in dies all of a sudden, and Child Protective Services is going to take him and send him to juvie because I guess for whatever reason this was like the last step before he was just sent to juvie because he was such a troubled kid. So he fakes his own death really poorly and just like runs into the bush in New Zealand, this like basically like jungly forest area, just like thousands and thousands of square miles of wilderness. And he runs out there to just like live in the wilderness because he doesn't want to go to juvie. And the widower of the woman who takes him in, played by Sam Neill, who you may remember as, I think his name is Dr. Alan Grant.
Dr. Alan Grant, yeah.
In Jurassic Park, another of director of the BFG's, Steven Spielberg's films. Sam Neill plays this outdoorsy guy who's the widower of the foster mother who took this kid in. And this guy is like super gruff. Sam Neill has this big beard, bushy hair, and he's like an ex-convict who had lived out in the bush for a while and was like a survivalist who this woman kind of took in and like helped him normalize, and then they got married. But he like didn't like this kid at all when they took him in. But he goes looking for him after this kid very clearly like poorly faked his own death. The guy's like, well, I guess I gotta go get the kid. But he goes and finds him out in the bush. But when he does so, he leaves his house unattended, and Child Protective Services comes, sees that like this kid had like very poorly faked his own death, and assumes that the Sam Neill's character had like kidnapped the kid to like molest him out in the wilderness, and now like they're fugitives out in the bush, and like Child Protective Services and the police are like spending the next like few months trying to find the kid and Sam Neill out in the bush. And the movie is about that, and it's about them surviving out in the wilderness. This like kid from like the city in New Zealand, and this like survivalist old gruff man, and it's like super wacky and funny. Like there's these recurring characters who are these like hunters who hear about like I guess the like prize money for bringing in these this guy who's, you know, an alleged, like they keep like all the papers refer to him as like a pervert out in the woods with this kid, and they try to track down the guy and the kid, and the guy and the kid keep like stealing their guns and ammo and then just like leaving, and it's this recurring thing throughout the movie. But it's really cool. It's like it's a very heartfelt movie about this kid who does not belong in the wilderness trying to survive in the wilderness with this old man who like just wants nothing to do with him. And I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of like New Zealand specific comedy, but what was cool about the movie is that a lot of times they would like explain the like references they were making, or like the New Zealand specific jargon and phrases they were using. I really liked it. I really liked it. It was a cool movie that I would definitely recommend. And it's something that I don't think gets made enough anymore. So I was very happily surprised by it.
Would you say that
did they riff on us? Oh, go ahead. Dane.
Oh, I was going to ask, do you think that it's a part of the same genre as Hook? Is that why you brought it up earlier?
No, I mean, it has the same like energy that Hook has, where it's like a bunch of kids doing fun stuff out in the wilderness with this fantastical storyline. And Hunt for the Wilderpeople doesn't have a whole lot of fantasy to it, but it has this like lighthearted, very like quick-witted comedy that's very like Wes Anderson inspired. If you know Wes Anderson's films, like the dialogue is super snappy, the editing is weird. It has these like funny shots that you might see in a Wes Anderson film. But what's different about like Taika Waititi's approach to filmmaking than Wes Anderson's is like there's just like extreme violence that's in this movie too, that it'll go from like just like being buddy out in the woods to like Sam Neill jumping off a cliff with a knife and like stabbing a boar so that they can eat, and it's like super bloody, and the camera will just like focus on the kid's face being horrified as Sam Neill is just repeatedly like stabbing this boar in the throat. It took me by surprise, and I really liked it.
I will say that when I watched Taika Waititi's other film that recently came out called Jojo Rabbit, the whole time I was just like, this is obviously heavily inspired by Wes Anderson, but it has like New Zealand humor. It's a very strange combination, because like Wes Anderson's films are very, very dry, like just like you know, nobody is really making jokes. They're just kind of doing funny things or whatever. And it's always just kind of like tongue in cheek or cute. But yeah, with Jojo Rabbit, which is the only other Taika Waititi film I've seen besides, I think he made Thor Ragnarok, which is coincidentally my favorite Marvel movie. And then he also made What We Do in the Shadows, right? And I liked that one, but that was definitely more just New Zealand humor. It felt like he's just decided, I'm gonna do like the Wes Anderson thing, but I'm gonna keep that humor flair that New Zealand has, and it's a cool
it's like kind of snarky. I really liked it.
It's quick,
I haven't seen.
It's like quick, you know what I mean? Like it's like a step. I don't want to say step down. It's like more. It's more brash and like. I don't know, childish than British humor, but it still has that British humor flair to it. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh no, I think that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, but if it's anything like JoJo, then I probably would enjoy it. I thought JoJo was pretty decent film. So
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I know Taika Waititi is in Jojo Rabbit playing Adolf Hitler.
Yes.
In this movie, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, he does make an appearance. He plays like a minister giving the eulogy, like this really awkward eulogy for the foster mother who dies. And in Thor Ragnarok, he was in that too. He played Korg, the like guy made out of rocks.
That that was him.
Yeah, it stood out entirely because he has this thick like New Zealand accent. So
that's funny. That's cool.
Even when he plays Hitler, he still has his accent. So. But I love the New Zealand disposition. I'm a big fan of the Flight of the Conchords. I think I watch that show every year. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone from Flight of the Conchords was involved with Hunt for the Wilderpeople, but Jermaine Clement, I know, was starred in What We Do in the Shadows. I know Taika Waititi and him do stuff, collaborate together.
Yeah, I think Taika Waititi directed a few episodes of what is the
Flight of the Conchords?
Yes, thank you. Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah, I think so too. It's pretty cool to have a filmmaker who's very prominent now from the film scene in New Zealand. And like I was saying before, it just like captured these emotions that I hadn't seen in a movie in a long time. So yeah, Hunt for the Wilderpeople. It's on Hulu. Check it out. It's pretty cool.
I believe I have it on my list that I have not gotten to in months.
Yeah, I don't know.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
Animal
exactly.
Crossing, damn video games in general, you know? Damn, and now I've finally decided I should stop like slacking off all day and do some work during the day. So now I'm back to working on video editing during the week. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like no life movies like I used to anytime soon.
Do you have any updates on the stuff you're working on that you can share?
Nothing super interesting. I mean, like it's just all little nitty gritty stuff. Like I have 2 sequences that I'm trying to figure out how to blend together. Yeah, it's not really that interesting. It's just editing shit. It's like I have 2 sequences that are great on their own, but I have no idea how to transition between one and the other. So I've been trying to find like a relevant clip where I can like segue out of a sequence and into the next sequence that I already have generally edited. You know what I mean? It's just little things like that. That's the last thing that I left off on Thursday when I was editing it before. And
is this in the iDub stock that you're doing, or is this in the TF2 stuff? Okay.
No, the TF2 stuff, it's funny. I actually have most of that stuff already edited. It's just mostly just coming up with visual aids. I'm in the process of compiling a task force, and by task force I mean like, I don't know, 2 or 3 people who can assist me in making little visual aids, because I only have a certain amount of skills when it comes to that stuff. Like I can operate Photoshop and I can do some sort of like keyframe animation on things, but I'm not familiar with like how Illustrator works, or I don't know how to make little animations and things like that. So I'm trying to find like a good, you know, a tiny team of people who can basically just, I can message them and be like, hey, can you make a sentry gun like pop up and have an arrow point to it? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably the thing I'm going to be working on a little bit this week. I'm trying to give myself a little bit of structure in the way that I work on these things, because I have 2 major things that I'm working on, which is the documentary, which is a large scale project. That's just one thing. And then I have my Uncle Dane channel, which I haven't uploaded a video to in almost going on 5 months now. So I have to make sure that I do that. I recently hit 500,000 subscribers, and I was just like, I feel kind of bad that I hit this milestone when I wasn't even uploading videos. So, yeah, I'm trying to make it so that every other day during the week, so Monday through Friday, I'm working on, the documentary one day, and then an Uncle Dane related video on the second, and then switching off. So. That's how I'm going to try and organize it. That's as much of an update as I can give you. I'm sorry, it's not like anything spicy. I will tell you this, though. Ian said that he got word back from the lawyer that he's working with that they asked for three. He said that he asked for 3 different quotes on how much it would cost for different types of licenses to to basically make it so we can use California Dreamin' in the video, and we're basically just waiting to hear back on a price for all of those things. So yeah, it's just a waiting game like usual when it comes to that thing. But as far as like the rest of the editing goes, it's just kind of grinding as usual, you know, trying to make it into a finished product over time.
That's exciting. No, I'm excited to see what comes of all of this. And California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas is such a good song. So that'll be really cool if it happens.
I totally agree with you. It's I'm excited to see what people think of it, because it's I've probably said it before, it feels very much nothing like Full Force, but it's still kind of funny in the same way. I think the same kind of like, wow, this guy exists kind of humor. So it's gonna be.
Does it remind you of movies from the 80s and 90s like Hook?
Yes. In fact, we had a guest director. You might know him. Rhymes with Bevan Bilberg. Just gonna leave.
Oh, dude, Meven Tealberg.
Meven Milberg. Yep. The famous Meven Milberg.
Yeah, I mean Meven. I mean, don't get me started on the Meven verse, but no, I'm excited. And much like the Mamas and Papas with Mother's Day coming up, I wanted to segue into a theme song.
Is that how you're closing it?
You do theme song at the end?
Yeah, we have an ending theme song.
You gotta close it out. What are you doing? What
you say? This is the Motion Pixels podcast, mate.
No, yeah, you were doing a good job.
Yeah, keep going, Dane. Close it out.
Mate, this has been the Motion Pixels podcast. Thanks for listening, bruv. And I'm Dane Kevin Cook, aka the master of comedy. What do we call me? The bad boy of comedy.
The bad boy of comedy.
The bad boy of comedy. As you can tell by my very funny voice that I'm doing, that I'm making everyone laugh and not turn off the podcast early. And with me I've been joined by August. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And Matthew. Say goodbye, Matthew.
All right. Goodbye.
See ya.
Finished.
This was a voice podcast. This was me doing
I like that. That was good. That was a good little
definitely doesn't show any sort of like cabin fever that I've been experiencing. Definitely doesn't like give away that I'm going crazy cooped up in my house or anything. Definitely nothing like that is showing by me doing any of these crazy voices or anything. Like definitely nothing like that. Definitely don't include any of this either. This is all behind the scenes. Don't include this.
I promise you we won't. Wait, no, I just promised that we wouldn't.
Good thing I can cut that promise out.